Yep.
Hey, welcome to the show. I'm Brandon Lindsey. This is Terry Moran, and this is our first podcast. So, a little bit about me before we get started. Since it's our first show, I'm from Cincinnati, Ohio. I've been a full-time DJ for about 15 years. I am a father of two, married 26 years, and I've got I'm on the school board here locally, and I also coach varsity baseball. I run a small multi-op. We mainly do weddings, corporate events. We also have a corporate AV contract with a hotel here locally, and we do some weekday stuff like music bingo and trivia. So, Terry.
Yeah, I'm Terry Moran, north of Boston, Massachusetts. We are primarily a DJ wedding and audiovisual company. Our market is primarily New Hampshire for the weddings because I have a place up in Laconia, New Hampshire, up there where Laconia Bike Week is. I started DJing in 1987, officially started the company in the mid-90s, and it's morphed into different things. It used to be Crown Entertainment, now we call it Crown Special Events. So I'm a father of three. I've got three boys, and I do a lot of things on the side. I'm a basketball official, have a lot of hobbies, mountain biking, boating, motorcycling, etc. So Brendan and I are putting this podcast together to get to the root of some things in the DJ industry, give our opinions, some secrets, some nuggets, and we're happy you're along for the ride.
Yeah. Hey, I wanted to. I also should mention, what we've done in the DJ business. I know I've spoken at a handful of conferences around the country. We DJ Cruise. I've spoken in Vegas a few times. I spoke up in Toronto. I spoke down at Arm DJs with Robbie Britton. Tell me a little bit about your things you've done.
Yeah, my first DJ conference I spoke at was 1996 in Las Vegas. DJ Times used to have a West Coast or Vegas convention as well as Mobile Beat. And I've spoken at 20 plus conventions, Atlantic City, Vegas, the ones here in Boston. And I performed at a bunch of DJ spin-offs or battles or whatever you want to call them, all over the country as well.
And you were recently nominated for the MEX Hall of Fame. I know that voting is going on right now. So congrats on that.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Brendan. I think that, it used to be the DJ Hall of Fame, and I don't know what happened legally, but they can't use that name anymore. So MEX is the Mobile Entertainment Expo, and they are nominating the people that have contributed back to the industry. So I'm happy to be recognized, and voting should be here next week, or finish next week, I guess, and then they'll announce the winners. So Toad, our good buddy Toad, is also in there, and a bunch of other well-deserving individuals. So,
absolutely, yeah. It was one of the topics we wanted to talk about today. Actually, was that process was really interesting. I think it was pretty informal on the way that you were nominating people or the way they were nominating people, and I know me personally as I watch it, I don't have any hate for anybody that's nominated. That's not what this is about. I think a lot of people are so deserving of being in there, and I'm always good with paying tribute to people that have done well and helped others in this industry. So, but I feel like it would have a little more prestige if they had more of a process for the nominations, and I don't know what the behind the scenes is once they get the nominations and how they're determining who's in. But I do know that the nomination process was interesting. As I said earlier, I serve on our school board, and we have a athletic Hall of Fame and an academic Hall of Fame, and both of them are kind of set up similarly. And I think it would be cool if they did this with the MEX Hall of Fame, which is there's an initial criteria for both of those, which just basically says you have, in this case, it would maybe something along the lines of you have had to be a DJ for at least this length of time, and a few other criteria. I don't know what all those are. I haven't really thought through that yet, but I think it would be an interesting concept. The other thing they have is a form, and the form you fill out, basically somebody has to nominate you and they fill out your information, but they also give some of your accolades and the reason why specifically that they feel like you should be nominated and why you should be in the Hall of Fame. And I think that would be really cool too, because then you could share those as people were voting, so they could read up a little bit more about some of the people that are potentially going in.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, I give them credit for trying to establish something, but I agree. I think the criteria should be something that is front and center with the people that are in the Hall of Fame, and maybe they can petition the people that are organizing and try and come up with more of a formal process. Just because I want it to mean something, and not to say that it doesn't mean something to the people that are already in. I'm just saying that maybe a board of people who consider and vote that are already in would make the process more streamlined. And that's what I want it to be. I wanted to honor the people, not just that have been DJs for a long time, because there are some people on that list that have been DJs for a long time, but it's really the people that contribute, regardless of their age. There's some what we call new school kids. I call them kids. I shouldn't call them kids. New school people on the list that haven't been DJs forever, but that have contributed a lot. So I think that's warranted. So um, maybe after this year we can try and reach out and try and help them put a committee together and try and get some of these parameters nailed down, because I think it'll give it more teeth.
Yeah, I love some of the new school names on the list. I love some of the old school names on the list. Obviously, you're on there. Toad's on there. You mentioned him earlier. I've always, he's in my market. He's a friend of mine. I'm still very much for him going in, and we're very, like I said, we're very good friends. But I can look back over the years, and he's just an innovative guy.
Yeah.
Out there, always innovating. He was one of the first. I think he's the first guy I ever saw put TVs on trusses, and then he's rolling around with the DJ booth with the TV on it. Now he's selling those things, but he was always doing different things. I remember he had the iPod DJ thing he was renting out for a while, which was,
Yeah.
Left turn for a lot of DJs. Everyone else is panicking about, oh no, the iPod's going to take over our jobs. And he just bought some and decided to rent them out to people,
Yeah.
things like that. It's cool. And I think the first time I met you was with him out at actually at the original Hall of Fame ceremony. I think it was out in Vegas at the Stardust, and you guys were all on stage
Yeah.
doing that closing show.
That was 2006. Yeah. I think that was the
Right.
last official DJ Hall of Fame induction ceremony, if I'm correct. And then it took some sort of pause after that. I don't know if it was a naming rights thing or who owned it or what the case was, but there hadn't been anything in almost 20 years. So it's good to have it.
Yeah. Well, good luck to all you guys, and looking forward to being there this year. I'll be at Mex this year, so I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I actually
So,
won't be at Mex because before they announced all this, I booked a trip to Puerto Rico to take my sons to surf school. So if I get in
uh,
and they do make the announcement at Mex like they did last year, the ceremony, I won't be able to be there. I'm not going to fly from the beaches of Puerto Rico to Vegas.
that's a pretty good place to be, even if you're not there. At least you're on a beach
Yeah,
somewhere. So.
yeah. So
So we were going to talk. One of our topics today we wanted to cover out. You had some really interesting ideas with it, so I'll let you lead this through. But your emergency backup plan, what you do in certain situations, protocols. So
yeah, I mean, this
go
could
ahead.
be a 10-hour conversation. So I'm going to focus on some of the things that I think people don't give enough mindfulness to. I mean, we all have backup gear. We all have backup hard drives and, cables and adapters and USB-Cs and all that fun stuff. But I want people to think about, getting to the gigs. In my market, usually a wedding's an hour away. My office is in Chelmsford, Mass here, but like I said earlier, most of our weddings are up in New Hampshire, which is at least an hour away. And I'm lucky that I have a place up there, so I go up there early in the week and I chill. But my DJs that have to come up that way, the process is long. It makes the day 12 hours long. They get early to the office, check off all their gear as they're loading it in their vehicle, not just as they're putting it in a pile. As it goes in the vehicle, they check off the list to make sure everything's there. Everybody has their backup gear, right? But what happens if you drop your transmission on the way to, on the way to your gig? Not just a flat tire. What if something happens? What if you lose a radiator hose where you're not going to be able to drive that car 5 miles? What's the protocol? And this has happened to us. We've done 2,500 weddings. So a long time ago, I made it mandatory with everyone that works for me, whether it's roadie or DJ or whatever. They have to have $100 cash in their vehicle, in their wallet, whatever, and they all have to have AAA plus. So AAA plus gives you up to 100 miles towing anywhere. So if your vehicle became disabled, which has happened to me multiple times, you call AAA. They usually say, "Oh, we'll get someone there within an hour," and that's not really advantageous when you're trying to get to a gig. We're all there a couple hours early, but if you're going to wait an hour for a vehicle, it's really going to push you up against a wall. So I always ask them, excuse me, give me the name of the towing company. And I call them right up and I talk to the manager and I say, hey, listen, if your guy can be here in 15 minutes, I'm going to give him $100 extra cash because I've got to get somewhere, if it's possible. And never once in the 6 or 7 times I've had to do that has anyone said no. They'll push aside whatever they want to do for some cold hard cash. So I've had my truck delivered to weddings on a flatbed, rolled down, and just got to the wedding, and never called the bride, never called the venue. I didn't want them to panic, because I had a protocol in place, and I think that
Right.
that's not necessarily the answer for everybody. But the message I'm trying to convey is that you need to have some sort of protocol. You can't just freak out and, especially if you're running a multi-op, you got a gig. If someone that works for you is in trouble, now they're going to make their problem your problem. If you have a protocol in place, they follow it and then they call you.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's really, when you told me that, it blew me away. It was a great idea. The $100,
Yeah.
get here as quickly as you can. And I've heard over the years of people having AAA just tow them right to the wedding reception,
Yep. Yep.
which I mean, why not? You got to get it done. You worry about that later, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Get to the reception now, worry about the problems later. That's great. I know for me, I actually had a radiator hose go out this year. Luckily, it was on the way home
Yeah.
from a gig. So that's real life stuff. I mean, it does happen.
And this happened to me a couple of years ago. I have a bunch of classic cars. I used to have a 65 Malibu station wagon that I would take to gigs. It's badass. But I blew a belt at the wedding. And then when the next day, I was lucky. I was at the wedding. Cool. We're done. We're staying there. It was up in Maine. The next morning, I go to fix the belt. I take an Uber down. The belt's $12, whatever. They give me a little wrench to get it on there. No big deal. But the reason why the belt broke was because like the water pump was bad. It was like the belt was the reaction to the water pump freezing up. So I got the belt on, but I still couldn't drive the car. And now it took like 5 hours to get a tow because we were 2 states away, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Maine. And you needed a tow truck that had all 3 state DOT stickers on it. And,
Oh man.
I had taken my wife with me at the time and she wasn't happy. And, so again, I'm glad it happened on the backside, but anything can happen,
Backside's always better. That's for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know for us, backup just in terms of equipment. Obviously, it's funny. I was watching. I was reading out on DJ Chat or DJ Idea Sharing, and some guys were like, "Yeah, they don't have a backup laptop," which blew me away. And I mean, I use my backup laptop almost at every gig anyway. Like I'll use it for the ceremony, or if there's a cocktail hour in the other room and I don't want to do it wirelessly, then I can let some music play out there with that. But I have a backup laptop. It mirrors my current laptop. It's always there. I'm not one that has it set up all the time. I don't like the clutter of having 2 laptops running at the same time, but I do have a phone plugged in. I could get a song up right away and then get my other laptop up and running. Obviously, some backup equipment in the vehicle, whatever vehicle you have, is I think important. I actually had that happen to me. I was doing a wedding up in Dayton, which is right at the edge of our market. The most we ever go is about Dayton, or about an hour and a half away, and was up there. They had a power strip underneath my table that they left for me. They set up like a table, and then the power strip was under the table.
Yep.
And I plugged all my stuff into it, and I slid it under the table. And when I did, it had a short in it right where the cord goes into the hard plastic part, and it blew out my mixer.
Oh.
It ruined everything except my laptop. It even shorted out the fuses in my speakers. So luckily I had stuff in the trailer. I had, it was smaller gear than what I was actually using, but it was enough to get through the event, and everything worked out well. So those things, I mean, it's always theory until it happens. And you've been doing it as long as we have, then it's happened more than likely it's happened to you.
Anyone that doesn't have backup gear is just not a pro. And I mean, I don't even want to get into those discussions. Like those are hacks, and
Yeah.
like I've got backups to everything I have, every adapter, I might not know where it is, but I have it somewhere in my bag. Like you have to have a backup to everything. And what I'll do a lot is I'll put like, my RCA to 1/8. I'll zip tie the little lightning adapter right to that cord so that the adapter doesn't get lost somewhere. I'll zip tie things
Mhm.
together, and I have one box that I don't go to. It's like my last backup of everything, like my last little lightning adapter thing. And I mean, things happen. I've had lightning adapters just fall apart. You go to you go to like take them out, and they just explode on you. So you have to have all that stuff, and people don't want to hear it. You know.
Right. Right. Yeah. I know, occasionally, things come up and they're not even like me. It's not even the stuff that I would necessarily need for that particular event, but you've got a videographer that wants to plug in the sound out, have a few wires around in case that happens, right? He doesn't have the right adapter to get into your system or whatever. So, I've got a bag that I carry around that has lightning adapters, and then those types of adapters and things like that, a few backup components if I need it. So,
Yeah, I always give them the
yeah.
the speaker out. It's a lot easier. I
Mhm.
learned a long time ago not to give them the monitor out on our boards because a lot of times the mic bypasses that. I don't know if you knew that, but if the booth out,
Yeah.
monitor out sometimes doesn't include the mic channel. So if that's what they're looking for, it's bad news.
Right.
I give them the
Right.
speaker out, which is just everything. Or sometimes for a ceremony, if you have dual outs on your microphone, like some of the Sures have a 1/4 inch and XLR, they'll choose to just take that, which is fine too. But yeah,
Yeah.
I always try and help those guys out because some people are like, "Oh no, they're not plugging stuff in my stuff," and blah, 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 blah. No, you're there to make it easy on the other professionals that have been hired. Our whole backline is a team, right? Even though I don't know this photographer or video guy, I'll ask the photographer, "Hey, where do you want them to stand on the toast?" Because I don't give a shit where they stand on the toast. But if the light is better for you over there or whatever, just tell me and I'll set it up that way. And like most of the photographers say, no one's ever asked me that before. And I said, well, you should be dealing with guys that do ask you that.
Right. Right.
You know?
Yeah. As far as the videographer goes, I'll tell you, this is a topic for another time, really. But I have an external mixer that I started using inside my Toadmatic, and
Yep.
I really love that feature. It's digital, so I can control the volume of the out. So I give them the aux out, and then aux out has a separate control where I can help dial it in a little bit for them as far as where they want it. So I don't have to worry about if my music's too low and their mic's not loud enough. Sometimes they'll plug in and go, "Can you give me a little more or whatever?" And that's
Yeah.
it's easier now to do it that way. And so there are a lot of reasons I like that external mixer, and we'll talk about that in a future episode. But I think that's
Yeah.
uh,
I've got one. I just haven't graduated to it yet. I just, it's been,
yeah,
it's probably out of warranty now. It's like 3 years old with the X18 Behringer or something, but I'll get there.
yeah, yeah. So in terms of equipment, backup equipment, software, things like that, I know another topic we were kind of leaning towards today was, what is your best DJ purchase that you've ever made? Top three, I guess, DJ purchases. And I spent a decent amount of time thinking about this, and I will say there's one that's like 1A that I think you really can't include, because if you don't have it, I feel like you're probably not keeping up with your business. I think you're wasting a lot of time in your business, which is things like Gig Builder or DJ Event Planner, some software that keeps your business moving for you, and you're not having to do everything by hand. I think that I would put that as number one, but I think everybody kind of has to have that. So I'm going to take it off my list and just add it as a 1A.
Well, to
My
piggyback off that, Brandon, I mean,
Yeah.
what I use, what do I use? I use, not DJ Intelligence. I use DJ Event Planner, pardon me. And I've had it for years, probably 10 years now. But the best investment I made was hiring a consultant to go in and automate everything for me. They came in, they gave me, my workflow used to be I had a office manager that would take the lead in, process the lead, get back to them, and then her job's to try and, give them pricing, but also get a meeting with us. And that would go back and forth and back and forth. And, if we get 10 leads or 20 leads a week, that's all she's doing all week. I had a consultant come in and completely automate everything. So the first email that goes out, I have a brand, I have all my emails are canned now, but the first one I modify and say, oh, you're at, I just got one today that's was at the LaBelle Winery. I'm like, oh, you're at the LaBelle Winery. That's great. We've been there a bunch of times. If you're choosing to have your ceremony outside, we have all the gear covered. It can be anywhere on the property because we're wireless, etc. So I modify that first email, and then I send it, and I just hit a button that says sent first email, and then it automatically goes into a cadence, and every 3 days sends them an email. And the bottom of it is a link to have a meeting with us. So essentially, I don't need my office manager anymore. And once I get them into that cadence, and then once they select a chance to meet with me, I send them, I press a button that says meeting planned, so it stops emails. And then when we're finished our meeting, I press the finish meeting button, and it puts them back in another cadence. Thanks for meeting with us. Here's some information we talked about, da 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 da. And essentially, it gets to like the last email that says, we're assuming you've hired a DJ by now. If, good luck with your wedding. If anything changes, please keep us in mind. And about 20% of the time, when we get to that last email, they email us back saying, oh, no, sorry, we've just been busy. Like I myself would have never sent that many emails. You know what I mean?
Right.
This thing is automated so well that, when if they want to get to the point of a contract, I have a button that just says send contract. It automatically takes all the information, puts the contract together, sends an e-signable contract to them. And then once they sign it, comes back in, it turns the event booked. It sends an email to all the people, the roadies or DJs that are assigned to that. And it puts our basic wedding package out of inventory into that event. So to me, I mean, I agree with you. We all need DJ software, but this saves me 20 or 30 hours a week. And I think the investment to get it all done was $2,500. And for me, that's one wedding,
Right.
So I
Right.
did that a couple of years ago, and it's by far been the best investment that I've made because it gives me more time to do whatever I want to do, be with my kids,
Mhm.
bike, do whatever I want to do because I'm not like babysitting all these emails anymore.
Yeah, I think that's the top of the investment thing that you could do. Having a software that helps you run your business, and in your case, yours is a little more automated than mine. Mine is automated. I'm probably 70% to 80% about of what you described there, and you're right. The automated emails in particularly are great. And but yeah, I think you need that to run your business. It was so high up there that I just took it off the list and said you got to have that.
Yeah.
Here are my other three. Here are the other three that I think. So um, I'm going to go in reverse order. I go number three. I kind of put these in what I think if I had to rank them in a particular order. Number three, I'm going my Toadmatic. I love the fact that I can roll in. I love the fact that I can do video that easily. I mentioned that external mixer. I can already have it hooked up. I run a couple speaker wires out, a couple HDMI wires out, and I'm pretty much good to go. Plug the box in. I'm good to go. Set up my laptop. It just makes things so much quicker, so much easier, less wear and tear on the equipment because it's just locked into the box, not banging around, things like that. And I think anytime you're not unplugging and unplugging, plugging things in and out all the time, you're saving the chance of like a cord going bad or a port going bad.
Great.
So I love my Toadmatic. It's my number three on my list. You have a number three on yours?
Keep going because our gear is going to be similar. So, I mean, maybe we should talk. Like, I don't have them in any particular order, but I have a Toadmatic as well, and I use that. I don't use that for every gig just because of the size of it. Sometimes I want to take my iRock to a wedding, and I can do that with my regular DJ setup. If I take the Toadmatic, I have to get the step van out and everything else. So right now we do the Golden Gloves, which is an amateur boxing tournament for 10 weeks. And I leave my Toadmatic at the auditorium. Put the top on it, stick it in a corner, and we just like roll it out on stage and set it up. We have the auditorium sound system, and we have our own audio visual setup that we use for fight data and music videos. But yeah, I'm set up in 5 minutes. It's monumental for people that don't have one or a similar setup. To be able to roll yourself in and everything's already plugged in, the mic, the mixer, your turntables, everything. Uh, yeah, it's automatic for me.
So my number two, something else that makes my life easier, my rock and roller cart. If I didn't have a rock and roller cart, dude, I probably would have already retired by now. Like I just carrying stuff is not my thing, and nobody ever has a cart when you go to any of these venues or anything. It's almost amazing how many times you go somewhere and people can't believe you have a cart, which blows me away that their guys are out there working without a cart. But yeah, the rock and roller. I mean, I've been doing this a long time, and I've gone through one cart. The other one's still going strong. So, be careful not to overload it. Let it carry what it can carry. I got the one with the beefier tires, the blackout model or whatever, and I love it. That thing is definitely one of my top investments ever.
Yeah, my second, if we were going to be in order, would be my uplights, because for me, profit wise, they're the most profitable thing in my rig. We paid X amount for them. We just bought a new set last year. I get the Rockville Par 50s, and I love them. And they're pretty much set it and forget it. We use DMX, so I leave them static most of the time during the wedding, and then once the dance floor starts, we start to get the lights match the vibe. So as it starts to get going, we do color fades, and then later on we get into matching beats and things. And I mean, it's a $500 minimum add-on, and we probably do it at about 75% of our weddings. And it's one of those things that they recharge 3 shows length every time you charge them. So we'll get to the venue and plug them in just in case, and then we'll put them out during cocktail hour or something. But yeah, they make the venues look more elegant than they already are, in my opinion, and it adds a lot. And there's not a lot of brain work involved for the revenue it brings in.
I agree. Uplights would definitely be certainly in my top 10, probably in my top 5. They're not on my list today, but yes, I've made a lot of money with uplights. Made a lot of money with the photo booth too. So those aren't on my list today, but yeah, absolutely. I'm going to change pace a little bit with my number one right now. My number one's more of a training thing. The 1% solution with Randy Bartlett, all 3, 4D. I don't know how many DVDs there are. It absolutely changed my business. Now I've gone to Mark Farrell, one of Mark Farrell's workshops. I flew out to LA and went to Peter Mary's workshop, which was phenomenal. Bill Herman's flew up to Minneapolis and did his workshop, phenomenal. But those 1% solution DVDs were great for not only me, but I could train my staff. We could watch them together. So many little nuggets in there. Just the whole entire concept of the 1%, which I know Randy had a fun time. There were a lot of misconceptions about what it really meant, things like that. But the 1% solution, I've said for years, is the number one thing I ever bought for my business. And I would highly recommend it, even though he doesn't make them anymore. I'm sure you can find them. But
I've got a set somewhere. Yeah, I'm out of my office, so they might be in my house office here. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yep. But I never went all the way through them. So yeah, that'll be a goal of mine for this year. It never helps to keep learning. I think for a couple of years I was stuck in the rut where, what do I need to listen to these people for? Like I'm just as successful as they are, and blah blah blah. And I had that mindset for a couple of years, and it quickly went away. And I give a lot of attributes to Mike Walter for him being a friend and a colleague, and seeing the things that he's done. I might not do everything exactly the way he's done, but he usually points me in the right direction of ways to get things done. When I was building my multi-op, when I quit my engineering job, so he's helped me a lot. So I'm all about getting more educated.
Those educational DVDs or books, anything you have, any of those materials. One of the things that I've done in the past is if there's a conference and I can't make it, and I have a little bit of FOMO, everybody's out there learning new things and stuff, and you're sitting here at the house or sitting in your office, and sometimes you have an event, you can't go. Sometimes whatever. We both have kids. Sometimes the kids things come first, and you can't make it out there. but I'll usually find some time during those conferences to pull out those DVDs or whatever educational materials I have. And at least I feel like I'm getting something while everybody else is getting something.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. A lot of the
it's a
time,
little,
and this is for another conversation, but a lot of the times the conferences, the conversations out in the hallway are just as beneficial, if not more, than the content from the speakers in the individual seminars. So, but yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
so when you don't go to the conferences too, your liver thanks you, I'm sure.
Yeah. Right. So what's your number one?
So my number one would have to be not so much, a gear investment, but for me, what I've done over the last couple of years is I've really tried to focus on getting to know the staff at the venue. One of the things I do is we don't advertise much anymore, but I'll always call up at the beginning of December and make sure I still have the contact in the sales office because we work so many different venues. Probably work 40 different venues this year. And say, hey, how many do you have on staff there? And I'll send up some gift certificates to Dunkin' Donuts is big out here, or a local coffee shop or something like that with some of my cards, and trying to make that investment. And same thing with there's some wedding planners that I'll go out and have lunch or liquid lunch with a couple times a year, and just talk about the industry and this and that, and try and really keep my contacts solid because people don't do business with companies per se. They want to do business with people, and I feel like I want people to know who I am. So that's been the number one focus for me for the last couple of years since COVID, because everybody left their slots. Usually, most of the venues lost their staff, so we kind of had to start all the way over. And we're a small shop now. There's just two of us, so that's been the most beneficial to me because we get on those vendor lists and we get those warm leads coming in instead of just someone, a cold lead that knows nothing about us.
That is something I want to touch on in another podcast. What your methods are, whether you're cold calling a venue or how you're getting to know some of these people. And I agree. I'll tell you, I used to do a lot more vendor networking. I used to go to a lot more cocktail parties. I used to go to a lot more daily luncheons and or weekly. I think monthly luncheons, probably a better way to put it. I knew a lot more people that were in some of the venues. And what happened was, I have a son that just graduated high school. He's a in his first year at UC right now in IT. But when he was in high school, he's a 3 sport athlete. So actually, he was a four sport athlete, and so I had no time, man. Like, I would get invites to all these things, and I just
Right.
was not going to miss. I didn't want to miss that soccer game, the football game,
Yep.
the baseball game. I didn't want to do it. So
But now
it
he's
was important.
in college, right?
Yes. So now I can revisit these things. And, I've already been, I went to a Halloween party, a vendor Halloween party. It was nice
Yeah.
to get out and, refresh some relationships, get to see some people I haven't seen before in a while and meet some new people. You were there.
Yeah.
You were at that Halloween party.
Yeah.
So
You were dressed up. How was
absolutely.
it?
That's the first one. He invites me to those things monthly. And that's literally the first one I've probably been to in 3 or 4 years
Yep.
because of how busy I've been. So, um, yeah, that's a great tip. I mean, you're right. People want to do business with people they know. Those relationships mean a lot, and you got to keep them warm a little bit.
Yeah,
So
just keep them warm. You got to plant seeds, man. Because where there's only two of us as DJs, so sometimes we're not at a venue that we love for like a year and a half because just every time
mhm.
people call, we're already booked. And
Yeah,
then it's almost like those people still want to feel that you love them. So I've like called and said, "Hey, I'm taking my motorcycle around the lake on a Monday afternoon. Can I come and just drop off some cards and buy you coffee and chat it up?" And one of the venue sales ladies had a baby, so I brought her like a gift certificate to Walmart because I know there's always baby formula and diapers and everything else, and just it's something simple just to let her know I was thinking about her as a person, like outside of those four walls.
there was a venue that they have about a 4-person sales staff, and they have multiple rooms at this venue, and what I did once was, and I've done this a few times, but what I did once was I knew that it was around lunchtime, and I actually just ordered pizzas and had them delivered. They had no idea it was coming. I already paid for them.
Yeah,
They just showed up, And it's kind of some of those things you can do. Um,
Yeah.
Very thankful. I tell you, one of the things I did that got a lot of response. You get the kind of like a Stanley Cup now, but they were smaller. It wasn't a Stanley. Okay. But anyway, I had those printed with my logo on them,
Yeah.
and I had enough of them that I was able to take around, just drop them off as a gift, right before Christmas or year end, or maybe after Christmas in January. Swing by, drop them off, just kind of rekindle that relationship. And now when they meet with a client, they're sitting there with their coffee's in a nice thing that has my logo on it too. So
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I get those for my sons over the winter, but I didn't think about that. They run, a Yeti one that's whatever, 26 ounces runs about $50 engraved. So that's certainly worth getting. Not if they have a
yeah,
50
mine wasn't.
person
So mine
staff.
wasn't a name brand. I was something I found online, and then I just had them printed online. Ordered them up. So I don't remember what name brand it was. It's been years ago now.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was a cool thing.
Yeah, we'll do
But those are my
a podcast
top things.
on some of those.
What's that?
I said we'll do another podcast on some of those ideas because I feel like that's something that will really help our businesses and some of the listeners too. It's one of those things like, yeah, I know I should be doing it, but if you make
Right.
a goal to try and reach out to 2 venues a month or something, like that's just going to get you more business, and then you have to lock in that business by rocking the house.
hmm hmm
So,
I'll tell you, in the last year, one of my I did these did not make my list, but I wanted to throw them out there for people that might be looking for a good investment. And this is equipment related. Um, the Bose S1 Pro,
yeah,
Bose S1, whatever.
I have 4 of them.
I mean, it's just those things are great. It saves you so much time when it comes to a ceremony in particular. You don't have to worry about being near electric or running extension cords through someone's event. Um, it's just a great way to go. I actually have a tray that I can clamp onto my speaker stand. I put my stuff right there. And then the other one to go along with that I got in the last, probably, I think we talked about it after the Halloween party, in the last probably 6 months. I got those Comica mics that everybody was talking about
Yeah, I've got
on,
one too.
and man, I'll tell you, I don't have to set up this mic system. I used to have to bring a battery to power my mics because I was trying to go fully wireless, and that worked great. And that was an easy thing too. It was like, oh, this is easy. This makes it even more easy. I love the Comica mics. So those are just a couple that almost made my list, but I haven't had them long enough to put them in the top three. But those things are just invaluable this year. They've saved me so much time. And my guys, I got them for my guys too. My guys love them. They couldn't believe it. And honestly, they sound better. I think the Comicas sound better, but that's kind of where I'm at with my top purchases right now.
Yeah, I use the Comicas for a couple of corporate AV things where I always ask, they want a handheld mic, they want a podium mic, or do they want to walk around? And if they walked around, I stuck the Comica on them, and yeah, I've learned that you got to put them into like a little mixer so you can get as much control out of it as you can. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
And the S1
fantastic.
Pros, I mean, we use them with the Sennheiser, wireless battery mics on both sides for both using it as a wireless speaker or using it as, I put it on. What we do with our ceremony mics, for lack of a better term, is everyone like has a binder, and we have this little podium that sticks up off the binder, and we put our Sennheiser mic there, and then it wires down to either the JP or somewhere on the binder, and then it comes over to our Pro One S1. So that to me has just made everything much easier.
One thing I'll add with the Comic is I get less wind now than I did with my other mics, with my regular clip-on
Really? Yeah.
lapels. I don't even get as much wind as I used to. So
Maybe because
um,
no head sticking up or anything. The mic is kind of built into the stick.
yeah,
So
yeah, probably, yeah. But yeah, I really like those. I think this has been a good first episode.
yeah,
We're gonna try to put one of these a week out. I think we appreciate anybody that tuned in, and if you want to give us a like or whatever people do with these things, we'd appreciate that.
yeah. And
And
any topics you'd like to hear talk about? Like, we're all about talking about new topics, old topics, topics that have been talked by other people. New gear, different ways to use old gear. But it's always going to be just like a straight up, no sugar coated opinion, because
Yeah,
that's what we believe in, and no politics.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah. We already talked about the Mex thing, man. We're already giving them ideas.
Yeah.
So,
So,
all right, hey, cool. Yeah, if anybody, we're going to have guests on here eventually too. If anybody wants to maybe potentially come on, let us know. Shoot us an email. We do plan on having some guests on, and this is just the beginning, hopefully. But
yeah, thanks for tuning in,
thanks.
guys, and we
Yeah,
will
thanks.
talk to you soon.
All right.
All right, thanks, Brandon.